Okay, and we're live. I would like to thank everyone for joining the opening ceremony of Althea's, the world's first iFi Hackathon, actually. So I would like to thank Deborah, Christian, and Justin for joining me on the call today. And even more importantly, I would like to thank the audience for tuning in for this opening ceremony. So we're very excited to be supporting Althea's very first hackathon on DoraHacks.io. This is a very unique hackathon opportunity for our developer community. There's many tracks, many prizes, but specifically the scope of this hackathon being related to iFi and tangentially related to like decentralized physical infrastructure as well is a very, very unique opportunity. I think that some of the hackathon ideas here will probably be quite different than other hackathons we've hosted in the past. So super excited to kick it off and see what y'all start building. So that being said, would like to reiterate how unique of a hackathon this is. There is a $30,000 prize pool up for some of the top projects in this hackathon. So definitely a good opportunity to start building infrastructure like an iFi project if that's something you're interested in. If it's something you've never even heard of, it's an opportunity to learn about it and potentially fall in love with building on Althea. So very excited to be here with the Althea team and very excited to be hosting this hackathon. And before I turn it over to the Althea team, I would just like to say if anyone has any questions during this opening ceremony, please feel free to either type your questions in the chat and we'll address them, or feel free to connect with me directly on Telegram. My handle's @BrianDora. You can reach out to me, ask any questions, and I'll make sure that they're addressed here on the opening ceremony. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Deborah, Christian, Justin from the Althea team and let them take it away.
Yeah, I think we'll start off with a round of introductions and then, head into a few introductory slides. Thank you so much, Brian, for that great introduction. I'm Deborah Sampier. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Hawk Networks. And Hawk Networks is the company that is behind the IP behind the incredible project Althea. Althea was founded back in 2018 or late kind of 2017, and we've been working for the last 5 years to kind of get to this point. Really excited about the roadmap and for all of you to join us on this journey to kind of disrupt a lot of the legacy systems that have a lot of problems and are very monopolistic. And Justin and Christian, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself briefly, then we'll get into kind of the meat of the show here.
Yeah, cool. So I'm Justin, co-founder and CTO of Hawk Networks, and back in 2017, my question was, it's been about 10 years since somebody created Bitcoin. Where's the microtransaction application? Everybody's been talking about it for 10 years, but it's still not here. And I was convinced, and this is in 2017, mind you, that somebody would beat me to it. And but I decided to try anyways. And what Althea is and what we found is that by keeping to that goal of building a real practical application that provides real world value using blockchain as a settlement layer and really amplifying those values and doing all the cool things you hear people talk about, but then not actually go and implement, they don't become the big projects. And keeping that sort of North Star has helped us build a lot of things that are useful to many people. And I think that is one of the key things that I want to highlight about Althea L1 here, is that it is an open platform for many different applications that may use microtransactions. And we got there trying to build a platform for distributed internet sales. But as we keep on building these foundations and slowly putting things together and trying to actually build a real application, we keep on saying, well, like, oh, wow, a lot of people could use this. And so, yeah, I am really excited to present something that is more general and something that has been accumulation of things we need for the stuff we're actually doing, rather than a project that is then going to try and get a use case after it's been built.
Hi there, my name is Christian. I am the lead blockchain engineer with Hawk Networks. So I work with Justin to make sure that all of our dreams and goals with both Gravity Bridge and Althea L1 become reality. And so we've done a lot of really interesting work here, and I can't wait to show it to all of you and see what you do with it, because it's just a platform, and I have no idea what people are going to come up with in this hackathon. So very excited to be here. Thank you.
All right, without further ado, can everyone see my slideshow here?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. So as Justin said, where are the microtransactions? So the microtransactions powering infrastructure and connectivity are what the core thesis of Althea layer 1 is. So Althea is a layer 1 blockchain with an EVM environment based on the Cosmos SDK that powers those machine-to-machine automatic microtransactions that really make up the core of everything related to infrastructure, which is really kind of the foundation of everything from energy markets to bandwidth, which is our current use case, utilities, ports and agriculture, and all these things that machines sort of create value or create transactions, or humans interact with them. Althea is the payment layer for all of that. Sometimes I call it the Stripe for machines, but it's the ability to make those sort of automatic and programmatic transactions on the blockchain, which allows us to do that in a trustless and permissionless way. So from there, from that kind of foundation of what we can do, we can really think about a whole world of exciting possibilities in how we fund infrastructure builds, how they're operated, and who can own them. So nowadays, you see utilities where the service parts and the infrastructure itself are combined as one, and it tends toward a very monopolistic value capture, and it's very brittle and siloed. But on a layer 1 blockchain like Althea with machine-to-machine transactions, we can imagine a future where you can own a piece of that fiber optic cable or a telecom tower, or maybe even part of a port someday, without having to buy the entire business. And all of that friction that's involved with building and interconnecting networks, so the manual people, all the sales people. One of the interesting parts about being involved in telecom is just how many people are involved with the manual parts of sales, and they take a piece of that as well. So that, of course, it keeps costs higher because we're essentially sort of paying a human to make that interconnection happen, where it could happen programmatically, and markets could be much more open. We might put a few sales folks out of work, but we'll create open marketplace which drive prices down and availability up. We also envision this future where transactions can happen programmatically. We don't have to have a manual credit card, a net 30 invoice. You could get paid minute by minute as opposed to 30 or 60 days in the future. And it leads to this more egalitarian framework. So instead of a top-down, full of friction and controlled environment, we create an open environment where many different people can participate in owning different parts of it, operating different parts of it, and capturing value. And the time is right. I've never felt more excited about the Althea roadmap. We've seen blockchain ecosystems over the last few years really focus in on that kind of financial type of trading use case. And, it certainly has had its, it has its market value, and there are chains that focus on that. But a lot of what we could be doing with blockchain is really intersecting in the real world, and it's how we've been building over the last 5 years together with real users to create a system that really works for that intersection of infrastructure. And that's what we call iFi, right? It's infrastructure finance, meaning the funding of networks, the ownership of networks, operating and billing, and all the pieces that kind of go in that intersection is really what we're focused on Althea. And Justin's going to tell us a little bit more about how the blockchain at Althea is sort of built differently than these sort of like financial transaction blockchains that we see today. And I'll let you take it away, Justin.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So we've been talking about iFi, and there's a big question of what does that mean, and how is it really better in a very concrete way? I don't like to stay high up in abstractions. I like to try and tie things together very closely, and I'm really excited about this because I think it's a sort of the setup for Althea L1 is one you can only develop by actually trying to use the applications and realizing, oh, we need this feature, oh, we need that feature, oh, we need this. And it makes for a very cohesive platform from the get-go, because we're not trying to build something that's in search of its use case. We have the use case. We're trying to build a platform so that we, Hawk Networks, can continue to scale using the use case. All of these are problems that prevent us from installing more internet for more people, and will hopefully enable you, developers on the Althea L1 platform, to build your own applications that do interesting things. So, without further ado, what makes Althea L1 unique is its separation between a transactional blockchain and a programmatic blockchain. And so transactional blockchains are not a new concept. Calling them something specific is a little bit new. Like Bitcoin is a transactional blockchain. It is designed for transactions. You send funds from another person to another person. And all blockchains have like a base transaction layer. For example, Ethereum, you can transact just ETH without interacting with a contract, right? Even though everything else is programmatic. But what we're doing is that we're taking that transaction layer and pulling it out and making very specific functionality we call the MicroTX module that is designed to allow us to say, hey, these are important transactions that people, these are transactions people are making for real world value. Like, for example, they are buying and selling bandwidth. They're buying a candy bar. They're paying for streaming media as they watch it. They are paying for electric car charging as they charge. These sorts of things represent microtransactions over on the sort of over on the non-programmable side of Althea L1. And this brings up the question, why is it a good idea to not be programmable? Everything interesting, from 2017 on, it's been like programmability, the incredible things and possibilities that a very dynamic structure gives us. But we have also learned, in the last 4 or 5 years, that programmable blockchains are very, we've learned the shape of the constraints. And the metaphor I always like to use is the early days of aviation, where nobody was sure if slapping more wings onto a plane was a good idea or not. Well, we have since learned that programmable blockchains need to take a certain shape. Fees need to be done in a certain way to prevent MEV from going crazy, et cetera, et cetera. And what has become exceptionally clear is that if you want somebody to be able to go and buy a candy bar in a cost feasible way and pay what we would consider a reasonable amount in fees, you can't do that in a programmable transaction environment, because the next Unisocks, the next whatever it is this time, is going to come along and shoot fees for buying that $2 candy bar to $15. Why? Because wherever you have economic value, you have induced demand for transaction space, for arbitrage. So this creates an interesting problem. Programmability is, of course, enormously useful. We want that ability to develop stuff on the platform. You're here to develop stuff on the platform. But if we want people to create real world applications that are about things that aren't all on chain, where the payment is on chain, but not the rest of the transaction, that is where you need the microtransaction module in this constrained environment. And this is what liquid infrastructure is. It's a way to connect the microtransaction module to the programmable environment and allow you to easily manage and users to easily manage and deal with tens or hundreds of devices. So I'll give you an example here. I have a smart electric car charger, and somebody comes along, they plug in, they're paying my smart electric car charger to charge their car. So I'm making money. So I am receiving transactions from them, paying me for the charge, right? Well, I have to go pay the electricity company and other expenses. So do I manage an individual wallet for all 100 of my electric car chargers? How do I, keep somebody from breaking open the car charger and stealing the private key? How do I, all these problems immediately become obvious. And this is where liquid infrastructure comes in. So what Liquid Infrastructure allows you to do is to mint an NFT representation in the Althea L1 EVM of that electric car charger, or its account really. And that means you can say, hey, this electric car charger never needs to pay anyone, so its minimum balance is $0. Everything on top of that goes into the NFT. Then I have my hardware wallet with all of my Liquid Infrastructure NFTs, and I can easily manage 100, 1,000 different car chargers. I can easily buy and sell without having to worry about, did the guy I buy it from keep the private key? These problems no longer exist. Management is now easy. And the microtransaction module intentionally prioritizes transactions in, microtransactions like somebody paying for charge in front of the programmable environment. So the programmable environment can have its equivalent of Althea, Unisocks, whatever may happen in that environment happens, but it will never disrupt real world. It'll never disrupt real world operations. You'll never have a situation where somebody's trying to buy a candy bar at the grocery store and it says, whoops, there's a lot of traffic on Ethereum right now. You can't do that. So that is what Liquid Infrastructure allows. And it's a really simple in concept, but absolutely essential if you want to really do these sorts of things. So what we, Hawk Networks, have developed and what we're running right now is a application that buys and sells bandwidth in a dynamic way. So every home has their own router, which buys and sells bandwidth by the second using microtransactions, much like this. And this is exactly the sort of use case, and I've talked about dozens of them at this point, that really fits in to this Althea L1 model. And I've also talked about lots of others, from car charging, paying for streaming media, even just small day-to-day transactions that also fit in this model. And that is what I was talking about at the start when I was saying that as we've built things to help make Althea the internet service provider, the internet service software, really work, we have continued to make platforms that are useful for other people too. Because when you solve real problems, it turns out other people have those too. But anyways, I think that's enough. Is there anything where should I be going next?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about how people are using the platform today. I think that might help get some inspiration for some of our audience on what things they may want to build. We've been primarily in the telecom space, but maybe you can share a little bit more about the telecom stack, which includes the billing, the routing, that kind of thing. Before we deep dive into that, I just want to share that sometimes it can be common to think about Althea in context of other, like a Helium or a Pollen or other projects that sort of intersect with infrastructure. But there's a few key differences. Obviously, Althea is a layer 1 platform that allows all kinds of transactions to be part of it, but it's also agnostic to how we transmit and how we connect those devices, right? And even in broadband, we've been building an LTE 5G with our key LTE product. We have off-grid sites that intersect with the solar. You have international, your fiber optic builds. We're building apartments with fiber, both rural and urban. And there's a lot of flexibility in the stack. So I think it's kind of important to kind of zoom out, and say, hey, these are routers, these are machines. They can send data and connectivity in all kinds of ways. We're not limited to the hardware. That can be an innovative perspective as well. Maybe you want to make new kinds of hardware. Maybe you want to make IoT. Maybe you want to make an IoT monitoring. We can also bill in a ton of different ways. There's a RIC, there's the radio integrated controller. What if you said, hey, I can see, something, an automated vehicle moving along a port, and when they fill up this grain silo at a farm, or when that vehicle moves across an area at a port, a transaction happens. So there's all kinds of ideas that can happen, and then I'll have Justin, if you want to deep dive into a little bit more how the what's involved in that Althea tech stack of the telecom piece that they can interact with.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to say this is the networking stack, which we've been building for the past several years. And it's probably got an incoming rebranding. because having too many things called Althea is a little confusing. But we unfortunately, we get very busy building a lot of stuff and not very busy making brands. So this is how it is for now. So the Althea networking stack, what's unique about that is that, so Deborah was alluding to some of the other DY, as it's called now, projects that are focused on like decentralized wireless infrastructure. What makes the design of the Althea networking stack different is that it's focused on just payments. There's no incentivization layer where you try to incentivize people for coverage, because that is inherently gameable. And that has caused a lot of problems for DY projects, and is also the reason why the focus of the Althea network stack and now Althea L1 is very much on building applications that actually use these transactions rather than the sort of incentivized mining, sort of rapid bootstrapping use case. Because you fundamentally cannot incentivize off-chain activity with on-chain rewards without bringing in so much fraud that it undoes everything you're trying to do. So instead, what we are pursuing is just making it easier to develop these applications, building a platform that is better integrated to create incentives for real off-chain operations that can't be faked. For example, with Helium or Pollen, you would receive rewards for putting up a tower, regardless of whether or not it served anyone. And this, of course, created a lot of incentive to make fake towers, of which there are many. But with Althea and the Althea network stack, you can put up an LTE tower, but you will only receive payment if somebody actually buys bandwidth from you. And this is why Althea is fundamentally a microtransactions platform that's focused around using stable coins for the microtransactions, because that's what real customers want. They just want to buy bandwidth or streaming content, or car charging, etc. And this ties into the liquid infrastructure NFT, because now that NFT is on chain demonstrating revenue, as in some actual funds have changed hands. It's not just incentives. And this allows you to maybe, for example, I could sell a successful electric car charger to someone else to maintain it, and they could look and see what its revenues look like for the past 6-8 months, exactly what was going on with it. All of this would be visible and transparent. Now, getting back to everything we've done in the telecom space, which is a lot, that is that the Althea network platform is designed to work on, is designed to be fast enough to sort of swap out for the core of the internet as it works right now. So right now, the core of the internet exists at internet exchanges, and all the different ISPs, they run BGP, and then they have a bunch of lawyers that scurry around with contracts that are like, okay, how much do you have to pay me for this much bandwidth? And after about 6 months to a year, they agree on something, and there's just a lot of human effort involved. And the key thing that the Althea network layer does is it automates all of it. You just connect to somebody else and they will be paid. And you can exchange bandwidth and run sort of anything, and run any sort of network topology you can imagine. And it's that sort of flexibility we envision for other applications that run on Althea L1. And now I'm going to sort of get into what are the projects that you can pick up. And Brian was talking about how diverse the projects could be in this hackathon, because you see we have because there are many different things that you could work on. For example, there's the classic Solidity layer, where you can deploy any contract you might deploy on Ethereum, but with a Althea L1 spin. There is only slightly closer to the metal than that, is to interact with the liquid infrastructure NFTs and build an application in the EVM to, for example, aggregate them, a UI to manage them, to view like revenue, and a dashboard would be interesting there too. But then on the other side, on the microtransaction side, is where things get fun. Where, well, in my opinion at least, I'm an IoT guy. I like hardware. So the on the actual microtransaction side, you could start building one of these applications to pay for streaming video, pay for electric car charging, and contribute to, obviously, the large amount of stuff we've already built for the networking application. So this includes new like routing protocols, faster speeds. Sorry, I'm trying not to dive down that rabbit hole, because if you let me, we will be here all week. But yeah, so there's a lot of different possibilities for projects, from pure EVM to EVM mixed with IoT liquid infrastructure to IoT, and then the whole space of anything that might need to make a transaction. Yeah. So what we're looking for is innovative and interesting use cases, new platforms, new contributions, and stuff that has real physical applications. For example, a great pure EVM project that's recommended in that list back there is a registry for cell phone SIM card identifiers, because there's no public registry that exists right now. This is a pure Solidity project, and doesn't interact with any sort of microtransaction, but it's very concretely practical. So I think hopefully that gives the tone of the projects that we're interested in. We're very happy to talk to you and, tell you what sort of fits the tone the judges are looking for. And we'll also have some new events coming up where we talk about different projects or ideas or things people are doing or that the judges are doing. Sorry, Deborah.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was actually going to share something that one of our, one of our utility projects that we work with was talking about, SIM swapping, right? This is a big problem in blockchain and crypto right now, too. So creating an application that, prevents that from happening or has gating layers in that is an interesting application, too. And I think one of the things that I'd like to throw out there as well is the networks that we have running, the people that are already using and interacting with Althea on a daily basis. We appreciate those suggestions as well. And those for our the devs that want to hack, integrating with people that are already using the protocol is a really great way to start as well too. So jump in the Discord, ask questions, interact with people that are using Althea on a day-to-day basis, and see where their pain points are at. I think that's a huge opportunity really to bring together both of those sides of the audience, right? The people that are going to eventually use it and people that are building together with that. And then maybe Justin, you can share in terms of kind of what the next steps are, office hours, that kind of thing, where they should meet, where we should find people. Christian, also please feel free to jump in where they can find you.
Yeah, so today we're having the opening ceremony, and this afternoon we're going to be getting the Althea L1 testnet 4, which will be the hackathon testnet, will be online. And we'll get all the various documentation up, at which point instructions will be ready for you to either join as a validator or to just get some tokens to play around with. Christian has been working hard today to get all the documentation in a good spot. And yeah, we really have him to thank for meeting our deadline date for getting the testnet online today. So big thanks to Christian. And if you take a look at the github.com, Althea-net, Althea-L1, you will find the blockchain code base if you wish to poke around and see the enormous amount of work Christian has been doing and we have been doing to get this ready. And also Althea L1-docs in the same GitHub organization has all the documentation that you need to get started, either with an EVM application, with an IoT application, any of those things. You should be able to find a good jumping off point. So come and ask questions at office hours, which will be starting tomorrow at...
Oh, the 4th of July?
Oh, one second. So, yes, but I'll be here. But so,
there's no better way to celebrate America's birthday than
So tomorrow at 3 p.m. EST, so noon Pacific time, we'll be having, I'll be doing office hours where I will be in Discord every day to answer questions and help people out. and help you find anything that we have maybe forgotten to document or you're just having trouble looking for it, So please feel free to ask us questions. That'll be every day this whole first week, and then 3 times a week thereafter. So I'm going to try and switch up the time some. Please leave me a message for when works for you if the current time does not work for you, because I've tried to pick a good time for everybody, but I know I probably haven't succeeded. So we'll do a few days of office hours at different times. So as you can see with the timeline here, this is a pretty long, around 2-month hackathon. So you have a lot of time to get familiar with the idea that you want to go for, and maybe pursue, and ask people what they find interesting, what is worthwhile, and dig into making something that's both really cool and hopefully useful to people who are actually using Althea L1, the platform.
Please stay in touch on Discord. Subscribe to the Twitter. We're going to have more workshops and events. These are the confirmed ones, but we got a few in the works. So really just kind of staying plugged in. And Discord and Twitter is going to be your best bet along this hackathon. But as Justin said, we've got a few months of time. So plug in this week, get the documentation in order. If you want to run a validator, it's open to anyone. And then plug into the events as they come along.
Cool.
And just kind of a final thought, we do actually have a few more judges that are going to be joining us, but we have some amazing folks. I'm really excited to be part of our judging team, including Sammy Kasapa Masari, who also has always has a lot of great articles in the DPIN or decentralized physical infrastructure space, really intersects with that infrastructure finance piece. And then we have some folks from Dish Wireless who are going to share with us a little bit later in the hackathon their the tooling that they have, which is really quite interesting. Dish has some open source tooling that the developers can use to develop telecom applications. And then some great folks from the funding world as well too, who have participated in funding some of the kind of decentralized physical infrastructure projects on the blockchain. So great folks, really honored to have them as part of the hackathon, and excited to kind of kick things off. We also do have some merch if you want to get that. This will also be part of like what we'll have available kind of coming into the hackathon, which we call like a hack pack. And the hack pack will have some physical hardware, the Althea routers, and some merch and things like that kind of help you get started if you're a DIY on the hardware side of things. So keep an eye out for that. That's, again, why you want to stay plugged in. You want to be in Discord. You want to subscribe to the Twitter. So you can be some of the first folks to get your very own hack pack and iFi merch, which is, of course, why you're all here.
Yeah, I definitely need a hack pack now that you mentioned that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so I think, Brian, do we have any questions, or do you have any questions that we haven't gone over in kind of this overview?
Yeah, no, I don't see any questions on my end so far. I mean, it's been very thorough. Thank you guys for coming on and giving this overview about the hackathon and of Althea and iFi for that matter, which I'm sure is a new term for most people. And so that's why it's such an interesting opportunity to be able to join this hackathon and be one of like the, kind of the founding idea makers, I guess, of this new sector of crypto, which we're going to get into here more. But I think I'd actually like to take the time now to just walk the audience and developers through our platform if they're unfamiliar with it. For people that have participated in DoraHacks hackathons before, this will be table stakes. But for everyone who's new to DoraHacks, everyone who's new to Althea, I think this could be quite valuable. Just so you know how our platform works and how to make sure your project gets successfully submitted. So essentially, what you'll want to do is you want to come to dorahacks.io/hackathon. And basically how this, like, you want to make sure this is the site, like you're not on like some scam site or something else, as we know are prevalent in crypto. So it's DoraHacks.io, and you can come over to hackathons here, and you'll see that Althea iFi Hackathon is spotlighted right here in the corner because we're kicking it off today.
Right.
Over the course of the hackathon,
Right.
this will be.
Are you hoping to share your screen? We don't see anything.
Oh, really? Let's see.
Sorry to interrupt.
There we go.
There we go. Thanks.
Amazing. Good catch. So I think that you probably got the gist of what I was saying at first, which is coming to DoraHacks.io/hackathon. You'll come to DoraHacks and you click on hackathon right here. And this is the page. So as you can see, Althea is highlighted in the upper right corner right here. This is the spotlight position. We're very excited about hosting this hackathon. And you'll see, the Althea hackathon in this position on our website numerous times over the course of this hackathon. But if you come on and it's not in this corner, you can find it right here on the scroll bar. It'll be scrolling by, and you'll also see it right at the top of our live hackathons right here. So the other thing I would like actually mention before I even click on it is you're going to want to sign in. That's important. So I'm already signed in, as you can see, but if you don't have an account, there will be a sign in button right here or a sign up button, and you'll click that and you'll have a few different options to sign in. We support signing in with email. We support signing in with your wallet, whether it be MetaMask or another EVM wallet. You can also sign in even with Bitcoin Lightning wallet. If that's something that tickles your fancy, maybe Justin wants to sign in that way because he's interested in micropayments. But I think actually one of the easiest ways for developers to sign in is probably through their GitHub. That's another option we offer. Just sign in directly with their GitHub. When you go to submit a project, you'll have to link your GitHub anyway. So it probably makes sense to sign in that way. And then basically you'll come to the actual hackathon page, which is right here by clicking on the link. And you'll see all the information here. I'm going to dive in more on this page real quick, but I did just notice a question in the chat, which is, can you explain the concept of exits? Is this similar to using a VPN, but something that is built into the Althea network stack? Justin, do you want to answer this really quickly before I dig in more to the hackathon?
Yeah, let's just keep this quick so we don't go too much on a detour. But I'll be happy to go and talk more in Discord. So if you're interested in this, just hop into the Discord and find the what channel is all the chat in?
This actually came from Discord, so they're already there. They should be in the hashtag in the channel iFi, and then there's iFi Hackathon. So that's probably where they're at.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just saying anybody else who's interested in this question can join them there. So to keep it at a high level, yes, exits are essentially a built-in VPN, but the goal is less that, how do I put it? The exit for an Althea network is where that network hands off to the traditional internet. So what this does is that it protects your traffic until it reaches the traditional internet and is handed off. And the reason we do this is because your Althea Wi-Fi router that is selecting the best and cheapest bandwidth source at any given time could reroute your connection over just about anyone. And you need to maintain your privacy. So the exit provides a VPN in the same way a VPN provides privacy across the larger internet, but it ends right as the traffic is handed off to the existing internet. So it does not provide privacy from ISPs that are the back end of the actual internet service, but it does provide privacy within the Althea network and protects you, allows you to have your connection roam across anyone who comes along with a better connection. And this is one of the key concepts of Althea. So right now, if I show up at the front of a neighborhood with a better, faster internet connection, it'll take me a decade just to convince everybody in the neighborhood to switch. But with Althea, if I show up at the front of a neighborhood with a better, faster internet connection, I will immediately have customers switch over to this connection within a few seconds. And this completely changes the dynamics of buying and selling bandwidth and sort of exemplifies why we think Althea L1 has the opportunity to break down barriers and really take some of these very insular markets based around human sales and turn them into open markets that people can participate in. And yeah, so I'll go ahead and hand it back to you, Brian, and I'll pick this back up in Discord.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for explaining that, Justin. And I'll make sure if anyone else has any questions, I'll make sure to jump out of my presentation and answer them as well. But coming back to this, looks like everyone can still see my screen, which is good. So yeah, where were we? We were just at coming to the, signing in, most likely with your GitHub if you're a developer, navigating to the Althea L1 iFi Hackathon page. So I'm just going to briefly go over kind of page navigation, starting with the detail tab. So this is basically going to be your major resource for finding all of the information about the hackathon and about Althea. It has some basic information about Althea and what the hackathon is, has a brief introduction to iFi and links to Althea's blog and Hawk Network's blog if you want to learn more. Kind of some ideas, like preliminary ideas, what you can build, a little bit more about Althea. And then, of course, what's really important is going to be the developer resources. Thank you, Althea, for providing these so far. And this is also going to be where, as you heard Justin mention, testnet 4 for the hackathon will be launching today. So all of the documentation for that you'll be able to find right here in developer resources. You can also obviously reach out to the DoraHacks or Althea team on Discord, Telegram, or Twitter if you have any other questions. But developer resources, we're going to find all of the information you need to get started on that testnet. And then I know that for this hackathon, we have a large Spanish-speaking developer community as well that will be participating. So all of the above information is repeated right below here in Espanol for you to answer any of your questions. I'd also like to point out the tracks page right here. So this dives a little bit more in depth on kind of like what the different ideas for the hackathon is. It's an idea list for hackers, and this is the tracks that you'll be applying to. So as you can see, everything in bold is a track, and then not in bold is like different ideas. So this list is not comprehensive, but it should be enough to get you started and should hopefully provide a good idea of the direction you should be building in if you're a developer. So if you have any ideas, or if you're going to be hacking, definitely use this page as a resource as well, because this is what the team and this is what the judges are looking for. Judge panel we went over as well, but if you just want to look at this graphic a little bit more, you can find them here. Another important tab is going to be right here, key dates, obviously. So as Deborah mentioned, we're going to be adding more workshops, as the hackathon goes on and some additional programming, but all of the initial workshops and office hours that have already been pre-planned are going to be here, along with just key dates regarding like what the demo days are, what the opening and closing ceremony are, and what some of the office hours are. You'll be able to find the links to all of these closer to the actual date of everything right here on the right. As you can see right now, we're in this opening ceremony right now. So the links for viewing this are here already. So similar to today, all of the remaining links will be added here as well. At this point, I'd like to point out basically the way you would submit your project once you have it. And that's through right here, Submit Biddle. So you'd click Submit Biddle. Because this is the world's first iFi hackathon, I would guess that you don't have an existing biddle that would be relevant for this one. You'd have to be creating a new one, which is great. So what you'd want to do is you click here, which is create a new biddle, and you'd be taken here to this page right here. And this is basically where you create your project profile. So right here, you'd put in your project name. I'll just go through this one step at a time to make it clear to the audience. So I'll just put in test. Right here is where you would upload your project logo. Right project source, you'd click hackathon and you write in Althea. And then tech tree is going to be crypto web3. And right here, these are essentially hashtags that you attach to your project to make them searchable for people that are on their platform, for discovery of projects. So definitely recommend that you click the ones that are relevant to you. Obviously, the most relevant one would be the Althea tag right here. So I'd make sure to click that. Scrolling down further, you arrive at your tagline. This is just a brief overview of your project, maybe the name, first whatever, not very long. But right here is where you'd actually put in the description of your project, in greater detail. This is very customizable for developers. It basically has all HTML features when you build this description. So you can bullet point, you can add videos, GIFs, photos for your hackathon. Basically everything here can be added in with the customizable features up here. Right here is where you put your Telegram. This is how we would be able to reach out to the different hackers to invite you to demo days, to get in contact with you, etc. And in addition to that, there's also like Discord, WhatsApp, and WeChat down below that we would ask you provide as well. Here is something I'm sure a lot of you are wondering about too, which is how do I add my team members to a project? How do we submit as a team? And you would do that right here. Basically, where it says team members, invite team members using nickname or email. You would basically put in the email of your team members. So you click here and say, I want to add Chris, who's a member of DoraHacks with me. I would do chris@dorahacks.com. You would see this pops up right here. I would click this and he would get an email inviting him to join this project, and he would accept it, and he would be added to the team. Right here is where you can provide more team information, basically like what your role is for this project and what your background is. You can enter that all right here. And then, as I said earlier, one of the things you'll have to do is attach your GitHub. You can add the repo here, and then a demo and a demo video as well. A demo is probably like a website, if you have a website for your project or some type of like usable demo. And then a demo video is like a video walkthrough of you actually using your project submission in greater detail. We also recommend that you create a Twitter profile for your project, reserve a handle for it, and you would put that here. Facebook is obviously optional. Don't have to do that unless for some reason you have a Facebook page for your project as well. Once you've done all of that, you would click here, I agree to the user agreement, and then you click submit BIDL and back. And I'd like to point out a nuance here, because once you click submit BIDL and back, what you've done is you've created your project profile. You've created the BIDL on DoraHacks.io, but you haven't actually applied to the Althea Hackathon yet, which you obviously definitely want to do. So essentially you click submit BIDL and back. That'll bring you back to this page here. And now that you've created your BIDL, where it says apply with existing BIDL, when you click this drop down, your BIDL will be visible here. The one that you just created will be visible here. You'll be able to click it. Then here you select what track you're applying to. Maybe I'm applying to tooling for Althea routers. I'd click that. And then once again, I agree to the partnership participant agreement. And then I click submit hackathon application. And now you're done. And now you've gone through the process of creating your BIDL, and you've gone through the process of submitting that BIDL specifically to the Althea Hackathon. So basically, you're good to go. Within 24 to 48 hours, the project will go through a vetting process on the back end to make sure it's relevant to the hackathon. And once that process is done, it will become visible on the Althea Hackathon page right here under the BIDLs tab. You'll start to see projects start to populate this. So that's basically the meat of what I wanted to cover on our platform. I think it should be pretty clear, but if there are any other questions, please feel free to reach out. It's not related to the DoraHacks platform, but there is another question from the Discord, which is, which countries do you plan to develop Althea in?
So Althea is a platform that's global and can be used in any country. It's open. The Hawk Networks, the company sort of behind that, doing a lot of the telecom stack work, is primarily focused on the US and looking at LATAM. But there are networks currently already in Africa. There's been networks built in Nigeria. There's a network currently live in Ghana. And then Colombia has also been an area where we built a network before. So I think the answer is, certainly anyone can take the platform and build, as many networks have already done so. And then, for Hawk, we're kind of looking at the US and LATAM markets.
Great. Thanks, Deborah. I think that's pretty clear. And I hope that my overview of our platform is clear as well. I think that, that is the bulk of the opening ceremony. I think it was been a pretty good presentation from the Althea team. And I'd just like to reiterate how excited we are that we're kicking this off today. I do have some final words myself, but before I get there, I'll turn it over to the Hawk Network team to see if there's just like any final things you have to say. No pressure, but if there's anything you want to say before we conclude the opening ceremony, the floor is yours.
I'd like to say that I think that this mission and work that we're doing is timely. but also important. So a lot of the work that Hawk Networks does is bringing connectivity to places that doesn't exist, that legacy networks couldn't build before. And that could be a rural and a remote place where legacy telecom couldn't figure out how to make the economics work, that those systems were just too brittle. Or in many cases, it's to people that are living in cities where their income or the inflexibility of the way that, you know, the legacy systems are made it difficult for people to access. And nothing more timely than certainly seeing the kind of global situation where you have countries, controlling the access to the internet itself. So my closing statement is that this work is timely and it's important. And the rewards for building on a platform like this and intersecting are really not only potentially monetary, but also in the values. We're really building a better world, a more egalitarian access. And I know that's certainly what drives me to wake up in the morning and continue to work on this. And I think all of us are here because of that, because we do see a brighter future by changing the system design. So I want to thank everybody who does participate in making that better world possible.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Deborah. I don't really know how I'm going to follow that up because that was pretty inspirational, but I would like to just finish by thanking everyone from the Hawk Network team for joining this opening ceremony and helping me kick it off. I'd like to obviously thank the audience and the developers who will be participating in this hackathon for doing so. As we've all kind of said, this is very, very exciting on multiple levels. It's the world's first iFi Hackathon. And it's being hosted on DoraHacks.io. So we're super glad to have this opportunity to be hosting alongside Hawk Network and supporting the Althea L1 blockchain. I think that some of the projects that submit and leverage Althea technologies are going to be very, very interesting for the judging panel. And I'm definitely looking forward to the demo days to see some of these projects in action. And with that being said, I would just like to finish the opening ceremony by once again reiterating, if you do have any questions, please feel free to connect directly with the DoraHacks team on socials, on Twitter, on Telegram. You can reach out to either me at Brian Dora or our official account, which is at DoraHacks Official. If you have any questions, you can also please join the Althea Discord, where it seems like there's already a community rallying around this hackathon. Some of the questions today came from that Discord, so it's active and can definitely be a good place to find teams. You can do that either on Althea's Discord, or you can find teams on the DoraHacks Discord as well. And yeah, I would just like to thank everyone for joining. This concludes the Althea world's first iFi Hackathon opening ceremony. We're officially live. Submission portal is open. So good luck, everyone, and thanks for joining.